So Conor Benn has revealed his only contractual demand ahead of a potential showdown with Chris Eubank Jr. They're talking about doing the fight at Wembley Stadium. He said, I don't want no rehydration clause because when I smoke him, what's he going to say then? Come in whatever weight you want. A fight is a fight, 160, no rehydration clause, no problem. I'll still deal with him within 3-4 rounds after what I saw. He'll get dealt with no problem. I'm easy to deal with. Just give me an 18-foot ring. That was all I put in the last contract. An 18-foot ring, that's it. All right, those are the words of Conor Benn. Now, the 18-foot ring, for those of you who are not familiar with ring sizes, an 18-foot ring is a small ring. A big ring would be like 24 foot. I think that's the maximum allowed. It may vary from commission to commission, from country to country, but 24 foot is the biggest ring I've heard of in boxing. 20 foot is more common, 22 feet is still quite big, 18 foot is a small ring, but of course Conor Benn is a relatively small fighter, right? He's a welterweight. And so generally, the smaller fighters are going to fight in smaller rings, bigger fighters are going to fight in a bigger ring, although you do get shenanigans going on. Sometimes you'll have a heavyweight who's a pressure fighter, and if he's the A side and he's shorter than his opponent, they will somehow manage to have two heavyweights fighting in an 18-foot ring to make it easier for the pressure fighter, to give him an advantage so the bigger guy can't stay away from him. But generally, bigger fighters, bigger ring, smaller fighters, smaller boxing ring. Now with Conor Benn against Eubank Jr., I've said from the very beginning, in the run-up to the first time they were supposed to fight each other, that to me, it seems like an unnecessary and very strange deviation from the career path that Conor Benn was on, because he was being managed almost to perfection by his team, by Eddie Hearn and everybody else involved in terms of their matchmaking. And it's not that they were just cherry picking and giving him cream puffs the whole time. No, they tested him along the way. When he fought Cedric Peynaud, the French guy, he gave Conor Benn absolute hell the first time they fought. A few fights down the line, they matched him with Peynaud again. Now, if they were trying to protect Conor Benn, they wouldn't have put him in with that guy again who dropped him a bunch of times. Okay, so they were building Conor Benn as a fighter. They were giving him tests along the way and gradually stepping him up. Then all of a sudden, when Conor Benn is on the verge, on the brink of eliminators and title shots at welterweight, they say, actually, we're going to take this random left turn and fight Eubank Jr. at a catchweight, where it's basically a middleweight. It was 157 originally, now it would be 160. I always thought that was strange. Yes, there's the rivalry of their fathers, but Eubank Jr.'s coming to the end of his career. He's in his, mid-30s now nearly. Conor Benn is just starting out in terms of reaching the top 10 and world level and all that kind of thing. It just seems a strange time to have that fight. The more logical time to have that fight would be after Conor Benn has actually challenged for world honors at welterweight, at least to me. Maybe he challenges one of the champions, is unsuccessful. Then he thinks, okay, let me go fight Eubank Jr., make this deviation. That would make more sense. To have it before Conor Benn has even done that, again, strange. But I guess if he were to lose to Eubank Jr., the idea is he lost to a middleweight, and therefore at welterweight, they could still market him. They could still sell him as being undefeated at welterweight, right? He lost, but it was to a middleweight. Loads of welterweights would lose to a middleweight, etc., etc. Nevertheless, I thought it was a strange thing. I still think it's a strange fight. There's a lot more intrigue there now because of the PED scandal. They say no publicity is bad publicity. In this case, it's probably true in terms of creating hype for the fight, creating interest in Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, because you now have a good guy versus bad guy scenario, and that always sells with the public. They want a good guy versus a bad guy, a pantomime hero versus the pantomime villain. And interestingly enough, the roles are completely reversed now, because when they were originally scheduled to fight, Eubank Jr. was seen as the villain and Conor Benn was seen as the hero, at least in many people's eyes. Now it's completely the opposite. Now Eubank Jr. is seen as the hero and Conor Benn is seen as the villain. I know there are going to be some people who say the fight's garbage, both fighters are garbage, I don't care about any hero and villain stuff. That's okay. I'm talking about the majority of boxing fans. The majority of boxing fans, at least in the UK, are interested in the Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Benn fight, and that's the way they see it. They see Eubank Jr. in a good light and Conor Benn in a bad light, and that's going to help to sell it. There's no question about it. Now, getting back to this issue about the ring, I'm glad that they've removed all the rehydration clauses and all that kind of stuff because, that kind of thing not only potentially makes it dangerous for the fighter having to come down in weight, but it takes away from the achievement of the smaller fighter if they manage to win. Because then people will just say, well, you beat a drained fighter. You didn't beat the guy fully hydrated. But obviously, there is the issue of the smaller fighter being in danger against the much bigger man. But at the end of the day, boxing has always had these type of fights. When Roy Jones Jr., I know Conor Benn is no Roy Jones Jr., but many fighters, lesser fighters than Roy Jones Jr., have jumped up many weight divisions and fought much bigger men and been successful over the years. This is boxing. At the end of the day, there is inherent danger in boxing. You're never going to make it completely safe. And in fact, the danger in boxing, to a certain extent, we don't want this to be like the Colosseum in ancient Rome, but to a certain extent, the danger is what makes boxing exciting. So I remember when Roy Jones Jr. stepped up to face John Ruiz at heavyweight, it was just a fascinating thing. We hadn't seen anything like that in boxing for many, many decades. He stepped up from light heavyweight all the way up to heavyweight. Roy Jones came in, I think, under 200 pounds, like 190 something pounds. John Ruiz was like 220 or 230 something. The size difference between them was massive. Yeah, we'd seen people step up in weight, but not give away that amount in a very long time. So it was an intriguing thing, a fascinating thing to see what would happen when John Ruiz actually connected on Roy Jones. And it was also fascinating to see what would happen when Roy Jones connected on John Ruiz, because the assumption that everybody was making was Roy Jones can't hurt John Ruiz. He's a big, strong heavyweight. But actually, Roy Jones was able to hurt John Ruiz fairly early on in the fight, and after he hurt him, he was able to control him for the entire 12 rounds. So this would be Conor Benn stepping up 2 weight divisions to fight Chris Eubank Jr. He thinks he can get Eubank Jr. out of there in 4 rounds, particularly after what happened in the first Liam Smith fight. There's a lot of questions about Conor Benn after this whole PED scandal, because if he's guilty of doping, whether it was him taking it knowingly or his team giving it to him, then we need to find out how well he performs when he's clean. And some people are going to say, he's innocent. Okay, that's cool. Let's see whether he actually has the hearing and doesn't try to use some technicality over jurisdiction to get out of this UCAD situation. That's one of the questions about Conor Benn. How will he perform without the juice? His trainer, Tony Sims, apparently wants him to have a fight, at least one fight, before going into a match with Eubank Jr. because he's been out the ring so long. Eddie Hearn's talking about how well Conor Benn is sparring. He's sparring like an absolute beast, this, that, and the other. Yeah, but against who? When he's going in there sparring bigger guys, let's say middleweights, let's say junior middleweights, maybe super middleweights, who are not particularly special. Yeah, I'm sure he can smash some of these guys to pieces in sparring. But are those guys on the same level as a Chris Eubank Jr.? I seriously doubt it. I mean, even Chris Eubank Jr. has sparred heavyweights in the gym, but what heavyweights is he sparring? You can find heavyweights who are poor enough for Eubank Jr. to absolutely rip to shreds in the gym. But if you're talking about a top 20, top 10 heavyweight, Eubank Jr. is not going to smash him to pieces in the gym, is he? Realistically speaking, no, he's not. So I'm not particularly impressed with all this stuff that we hear about Conor Benn. Oh, he's doing this and that in the gym and sparring. Who's he sparring? I mean, personally, I would be surprised if he took Eubank Jr. out early. Yeah, we've seen it with Liam Smith, who was a smaller fighter moving up. But I'm going to say that Liam Smith is actually a more skillful fighter than Conor Benn. Yeah, I'm going to say that. Or at least he's a more defensively responsible fighter, if we don't want to say skillful. And he's certainly more experienced than Conor Benn. And obviously Eubank Jr. will have learned from what happened in that first Liam Smith fight. We probably won't see him shoulder rolling so much as he used to. From a stylistic perspective, Conor Benn moves his head quite well, but he does throw wild shots. He can be caught coming in. He's obviously physically fit. He's got stamina. We've seen him go many rounds, but he's never fought a guy with the combination of size and experience that Eubank Jr. has. Yeah, he's fought some experienced guys. Chris Algieri was an experienced guy, but he's not a Eubank Jr. He's not that big. He's not that talented, truth be told. Chris Algieri is not as talented as Eubank Jr. So anyway, let me not think out loud for too long in this video. I'll pass it over to you guys. What do you think about Conor Benn and this 18-foot ring demand? Will that be enough to give him the ability to corner Eubank Jr., pin him down and take him out? Or won't it matter? And will Eubank Jr. even agree to an 18-foot ring, given the fact that he's now saying he's the A-side? And you have to say that he is the A-side at this point. Will he say, nah, you're not getting an 18-foot ring, it's got to be at least 20 inside the ropes? Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.